Around 202,000 mothers and 27 of every 1,000 infants die each year in sub-Saharan Africa due to complications in childbirth, according to WHO's 2024 report on maternal mortality. The lack of accessible health care for women in this region, coupled with higher disease burdens during the gestational period, creates countless risks for mothers. Medical device accessibility and miniaturization is not just a matter of convenience, it has become a necessary tool for survival in low and lower middle income countries. An initiative from Butterfly Network in sub-Saharan Africa has shown how pocket-sized ultrasound tools can save lives during pregnancy. Joining us today is Nevada Sanchez, Chief Innovation Officer of the Butterfly Network, who can speak to the importance of ultrasound miniaturization and its integration in healthcare systems worldwide. Thank you for joining us today, Nevada.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
So, first, tell me about the Butterfly Network and your role as the Chief Innovation Officer there.
Certainly. So I actually co-founded the company back in 2011. Before that, I was building radio telescopes to image the early universe. And my co-founder convinced me to work on imaging the human body. And the challenge that we set out was a pretty significant one. We wanted to create this device that was small enough to fit in your pocket, but yet was incredibly capable. It could scan in 3D, it could image in all of the same ways that a traditional ultrasound machine could do, just significantly smaller and significantly more cost effective so that it could truly be accessible to everyone. We knew how important medical imaging was to improving healthcare outcomes and really saving lives. And it just was not accessible or affordable enough. And we were going to change that by putting ultrasound technology on a semiconductor chip. Just like photography went from film to digital, ultrasound needed to do the same. And that's how we were going to make it affordable and accessible to everyone.
Great. So let's talk about that journey of developing the device. So what were the biggest challenges during the design and prototyping phases? Give us a nice overview of the whole process.
Yeah, it was really challenging starting from the problem statement itself. We decided in order to create this whole body universal imager and to do all of the amazing things we hoped it would do, we had to squeeze 9,000 channels onto the size of a chip the size of two postage stamps. We had to fit over 1,000 analog to digital converters onto that device. So we had to also include all of the processing to compress that data because it was going to produce something equivalent to watching 25,000 4K movie streams at the same time. And you have to handle all of that data in this tiny little chip. And that wasn't even the hardest part because in order to really make this truly integrated, not only the electronics have to fit on there, we actually had to build micro machines on top of the wafer. So these are micro machine drums, mechanical structures, or MEMS for short, in order to make this a truly integrated system, because the way it was designed previously of a crystal on one side, a cable, and electronics on the other wasn't really scalable to solve the problem that we wanted. So we developed an entire semiconductor process from scratch to build these capacitive micro-machined ultrasound transducers on top of the wafer. And then once we had the chip solved, there was everything else about the probe. It had to be ergonomic, usable, functional, performant, manufacturable, reliable, cost effective. And so there were no shortage of challenges beyond solving that one big, massive one of making the first ultrasound system on a chip.
So what techniques or materials were used to achieve that miniaturization? And how did CAD tools facilitate the process?
Certainly. So we did do a lot of upfront simulation and studies to really analyze various aspects of the design from how durable it would be, and very importantly, we did a lot of thermal simulation so that we can efficiently analyze which approach we were going to land on. We used in the other domain, in the semiconductor domain, we used tools to simulate the mechanical performance of the micro machines we were building. So we were also simulating machines in the very tiniest scale. And one of the things that we decided up front was we did go with a aluminum body, which was very unique in the ultrasound industry, but Not only did it give us the thermal performance we like, but it gave us the aesthetics that this eye-catching aesthetics that really come to be associated with our brand.
When you were doing the simulation, can you tell me a little bit about the tools that you used for that?
Sure, we use lots of CAD tools across the different functions. So on the mechanical side, we do standardize on SolidWorks, a pretty good industry standard for doing all of the aspects of the industrial profession, final design, manufacturing, as well as the thermal simulations and other kind of mechanical analysis there. There are pockets within the company that use Fusion 360 for rapid prototyping of fixtures, test jigs, rapid prototypes, especially since it has the CAM capabilities, because we could then manufacture it on site pretty quickly. But for the actual final design, it's in SolidWorks. For the mechanical simulation and design of the MEMS, that tiny semiconductor-based transducer, we use COMSOL multiphysics to understand how that whole machine comes together, because it is an electronic and mechanical system. And for chip design, we used a Cadence tool suite to do all of our design to silicon masks in our chip design team.
So did you have anything that put all of those together for collaboration to, improve the collaboration and the efficiency of the workflow?
For SolidWorks, there are some established collaboration flows. For many of the other, like the chip design and some of our other simulation things, we actually use Git, believe it or not, to version control all of our software and collaborate through GitHub.
So you talked a little bit about regulations and regulatory hurdles. Can you tell me if you did encounter regulatory hurdles along the way, and did the design process accommodate that compliance?
Yeah, I mean, it was important to understand all of the needs that we would have to have in place for our regulatory filing. And fortunately, we made sure to incorporate those considerations from the design upfront. So the thermal being a big one, understanding, making sure that our reliability and longevity was matching the marketing claims that we were about to make. And even our supplier choice and how we validate everything coming from our suppliers. That was a challenge sometime. Battery suppliers, for example, finding one that's cost effective, but is also has the quality standards that is necessary for a medical device. So we spent a lot of time engineering our supply chain, actually, just to make sure that every vendor was going to be able to meet the quality standards we need to pass the regulatory hurdle. So I'd say for the device itself, we were anticipating all of these things, and in the design process, we made sure that we had a device that was going to pass pretty smoothly through the regulatory process.
So you started to talk about the validation process. So can you describe the field testing process for the device? And you said that you were working with the sonographers right
Mhm.
away. So I'm sure that really influenced design iterations as well. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we identified several key opinion leaders in the space of medical imaging and ultrasound. So these were people that we knew would be a strong, influential voice in the community, and were also masters of their craft and can give us all of the feedback that we needed to iterate on the design. So we had it in the hands of these select key opinion leaders pretty early on. They were invaluable in getting the device to where it is today. Everything from it doesn't feel right in my hand. I don't like the way the image of this anatomy looks right now, to I don't think this button should be there. I think it should be over there. So we listened pretty strongly to that early feedback. And then once we did launch the device into the fields, we put in a lot of analytics into the device and the software. So we actually understand how our user base is actually using the device. Modes they're using, if people are reaching their thermal shutoff limits, we know when that's happening and what they were doing before that happened. And so we really understand what are the problems that are happening in the field through all of these analytics we're able to collect. And of course, we do surveys as well to understand any kind of complaints. And we use all of that feedback and all of the analytics to really drive our product improvement and the design of our next generation products. One of the incredible results that we have seen is we worked with the Gates Foundation to bring 1,000 of these devices to Kenya, and we trained 1,000 midwives, very simple 1 week training, how to do these scans. And every month, every single one of them is saving someone's life by finding one of these high risk pregnancies. And collectively, they've done over 1 million scans, which is pretty incredible to a region that didn't have any medical imaging technology at all. So it's been very successful, and I certainly hope we can bring this innovation to even more areas of and even more low and middle income countries to address this problem right at the source. We're also investing heavily in software, especially AI enhanced software, that will allow people to self-train, to self-learn all of these critical techniques in doing their ultrasound scan. So we really hope that all of these things will come to fruition, and more people will become able to use it and comfortable using it, because we've invested in these training models and because we've invested in these AI models and training software to help people self-start. We believe that the device that we've created allows you to contemplate form factors and applications that are far beyond what you would normally think about with the traditional technologies. So for example, we've been able to take our chip and put it into tiny wearable form factors that are not much larger than the chip itself, smaller than an AirPods case. And that's not really something that you would be able to conceive of with the traditional approaches. We've really innovated in a way to make something like this possible. So now you can imagine ultrasound being a wearable solution, something that's not done at a point in time, but something that can actually track health statistics over time. And furthermore, we're really leaning on this concept or this analogy of film to digital. Now we're doing that with ultrasound, and recognizing that the capabilities of an ultrasound chip extend beyond even the point of care ultrasound industry. So we're working on developing a business to capitalize on uh, other applications for ultrasound on chip. Things like brain computer interfaces, believe it or not, there's a device like this that can be implanted into the skull and actually monitor brain activity, putting them in surgical robotic devices, even using them to test oil and gas pipelines and airplane wings. There's an incredible swath of applications out there that are now possible when you have a 3D ultrasound imager on a semiconductor platform. So we're investing a lot in those new form factors, new industries, new applications, and really growing the potential impact of this technology.
Well, I hope to be able to talk to you again then about
Mhm.
those endeavors later on. That would be great. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us about this. And thank you for joining us today. And until next time, this is Sharon Spielman with Machine Design. Stay curious.